va subiendo la temperatura y va bajando la calentura.
Coffee was first introduced in Guatemala in the 1850s. It soon became the dominant crop on the landscape, overtaking indigo and Nepal. Government support of plantation expansion pushed the poor onto marginal lands, creating a lasting legacy of social inequality. Coffee continues to be a major part of Guatemala's economy and social structure. It is the country's chief export, and the coffee sector employs more people than any other. And Guatemala's ability to grow high-quality Arabica coffee beans places them ninth in global production. However, in the past several years, the coffee industry has been significantly challenged by the resurgence of a devastating fungal disease called coffee rust, or la roya. To learn more about coffee production in Guatemala and how farmers are combating this disease, we visited several plantations which utilized varying management methods.
No basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
Coffee production begins with the planting of seeds. The seedlings pass through several stages of growth, known commonly as little soldiers, butterflies, and parrot-tails, before they are planted in the field a year later. A sizable fruit harvest is not produced until approximately 4 years after being planted in the field. Coffee cherries do not ripen all at once, which necessitates skilled manual labor to hand harvest the cherries at the peak of ripeness. Once picked, the cherries are taken via truck or foot directly to the processing mill where they are washed, depulped, fermented, and dried in the sun on patios like they have been for centuries. Then, the so-called parchment stage beans are hulled and exported as green coffee or roasted and sold to local markets. Unfortunately, much of the value added occurs after export and roasting, so the greatest economic benefits do not reach growers. Some small-scale producers have attempted to reap greater economic benefits and gain stronger market footholds by forming cooperatives such as Lavos and the CCDA. These organizations have partnered with solidarity groups and specialty coffee buyers in the US, Canada, and Europe to sell roasted or green coffee beans directly, thus maximizing profits. These organizations can offer members significant benefits such as financial, educational, and technical support. One example of this support is the sharing of resources to combat coffee rust.
Coffee rust has been present in Guatemala for several decades, but not at economically significant levels. However, over the last 5 to 10 years, due to climate change, it has increased in prevalence and severity in the region, resulting in a 30% decline in production and the loss of over 100,000 jobs. There is hope as farmers are employing management strategies that seem to inhibit the progression of the disease. Conventional synthetic fungicides are effective but costly. Most small farmers just can't afford them. At CCDA, they are using less expensive tools to control rust. They use biofertilizers made from coffee processing waste and vermiculture to boost plant nutrition, resulting in more robust plants. If that doesn't work, they then apply calcium carbonate and copper sulfate, also known as Bordeaux mixture. Field trials are underway to address the efficacy of these methods.
Preliminary results are encouraging and show that treatment does inhibit the spread of La roya. At Lavos, farmers are using a mixture of ash and water as a foliar fungicide to treat minimally affected plants. Severely damaged plants are removed and replaced with healthy transplants, usually of the same variety. More resistant varieties do exist, but farmers are hesitant to plant them because they do not have the same characteristics and flavor profile that buyers expect from the region. However, several institutions such as the Guatemala National Coffee Association are working to develop resistant varieties that still have the desired traits. We were able to see some of these new varieties during our trip to Pilones, Antigua.
Given global changes, farmers will continue to face an uphill battle against expanding disease ranges, changes in weather patterns, and fluctuating markets. However, the Guatemalan coffee industry appears to be resilient, resourceful, and capable of meeting these challenges through collaboration and research. During our trip, we gained exposure to this unique crop, which gave us a newfound appreciation for the complex agricultural systems and talented farmers that produce this beloved beverage.
Lluvia que va a caer, viento que no se ve.
On the second day in Guatemala, we walked through Antigua to Caoba Farms, a smaller-scale organic farm. Their focus is on our exotic produce and herbs not traditionally grown in the country, such as basil, and they sell mainly to restaurants and hotel kitchens in Antigua. The farm director, Alexander Kronik, said they aren't certified as organic due to the large costs and lengthy process to certify each product on the farm. In any case, he emphasized that the farm values providing good food to the local community over being a strictly organic farm. While touring the farm, we learned about the creative techniques they use to grow produce organically in a tropical climate. Just like here in Wisconsin, their greatest battle is fighting weeds, though he mentioned half the weeds are edible. One of the techniques they use is housing the chicken coop around their banana trees. As the chickens nest around the trees, they keep the roots warm and the soil fertilized, which increases the productivity of the trees. Diseases and pests were also common. The students identified powdery mildew and downy mildew growing on the produce. The director said they combat these diseases by rotating crops, planting crops that aren't as susceptible to mildew, or planting susceptible crops during less risky times of year. We visited a number of farms that focus on feeding the local community, but none more so than Quechua-Loom. In the late 1970s and early 80s, the Guatemalan military committed genocide against nearly 5,000 of the Maya Achi people living in Rabinal communities. On our way to meet with the organization's leaders, we passed a memorial with the faces of many of the victims. Quechua-Loom Farmers Association is a Maya-run non-profit organization working to build indigenous Maya communities following the devastating 36-year Guatemalan Civil War. While visiting the organization, we learned they aim to rebuild by preserving traditional knowledge and educating communities on how to preserve land-raised seeds and sustain their land. One of the reasons the project has been so successful is because they go into villages and give demonstrations to 2 to 3 families, who then spread the knowledge. They also avoid using new technology, focusing instead on hands-on learning and practicality. Most of these families farm less than an acre of land. So far, the organization has established 20 seed banks across various rural communities, and they've built a training center, a dormitory to house volunteers and visitors, and an amaranth processing center to nourish the people.
Our group also visited the Monsanto Research Station in Salama. The visit to Monsanto provided a stark contrast to Quechua-Loom due to its strong emphasis on the latest technological advancements to improve agriculture. The weather conditions in Salama are ideal for Monsanto's continuous nursing program due to its near constant temperatures and high solar radiation. These conditions, along with controlled greenhouses, allow the company to grow several generations of plants per year to increase molecular breeding productivity. In addition, the site serves as a vegetable seed manufacturing facility producing over 500 kilograms of seed annually, including solanaceous crops such as tomato and pepper, and cucurbits like melon and cucumber. Traveling here with the USAC students proved particularly insightful, as they were able to share their thoughts and concerns about Monsanto, particularly those unique to Guatemala, that we would not have otherwise been aware of. At Santa Barbara, a beautiful farm located close to the volcano Fuego near Antigua, our host Kumi introduced us to the principles of biointensive agriculture. Similar to Caoba Farms and Quechua-Loom, Santa Barbara utilizes organic practices, but the biointensive aspects are the primary focus. The biointensive methods that Kumi utilizes were developed by Alan Chadwick in 1966 and are promoted by the NGO Ecology Action. Biointensive agriculture utilizes double dug, raised beds, and composting, both of which Kumi described in detail. Other key components are intensive planting, crop rotation, companion planting, such as the 3 sisters, corn, beans, and squash, as well as open-pollinated seeds, because they believe the best way to store seeds is to continue using them. In terms of pests and pathogens, Kumi thinks that Mother Nature is the ultimate control, so no fungicides or pesticides are ever used.
One unique opportunity we had in Guatemala was to visit a macadamia nut farm. In Wisconsin, we find them in our cookies, but here we got a chance to get up close and personal at the Valhalla farm. It is a family-owned and operated enterprise carrying out a sustainable agro-industrial forestry and development program based on planting macadamia nut trees for indigenous communities. In 15 years, they have planted over 3,500,000 macadamia nut trees all over Guatemala. influencing the lives of thousands of families and their environment. The owners of Valhalla have not only done research into the agronomics of macadamia nuts, but also into the processing and marketing of the nuts in order to make it a viable business for Guatemala. After the tour of the farm, we got a chance to sit down and eat lunch with the owners at Valhalla, where they shared not only a few laughs with us, but also their different philosophies. They use completely organic farming practices and promote biodiversity and sustainability by planting many genetically diverse trees. To contrast Valhalla, we later visited Tropical Tibos, a large-scale leather leaf plantation. They produce ornamental ferns that are entirely for export to either Europe or Japan for use in floral arrangements and bouquets. Located in one of the most fertile valleys in Guatemala, this company has over 800 acres of ornamentals, of which 420 acres are under shade screens, like the one pictured here. The production of these flawless ferns requires a considerable amount of weekly applications of fungicides, insecticides, and irrigation. Next, we saw the on-site processing facility where hand-harvested ferns are brought for a final fungicide dip, rinsed by hand, bundled, and then packed for shipment in a refrigerated truck. Another memorable visit of the trip was the Pantaleon sugarcane plantation. Our first stop was their impressive eucalyptus forest, which provided them with wood for biofuel production to make their refinery completely self-sustaining. As we drove through their plantation to the harvesting areas, we realized the enormity of their operation as we watched trucks navigate between vast fields and expansive facilities with loads of fresh cane. Though the sugar cane is very different from soybeans and corn, the landscape is much the same. It is flat, clear to forest, and truly a monoculture. We got to see the manual harvest of the sugarcane, where the work is difficult and dirty, as the cane must be burned before harvesting. The managers say the workers are sufficiently hydrated because they drink a required 15 liters of water, amended with hydration salts, daily. They harvest 6 tons of sugarcane a day for a mere $11 because it is a way of life for them. This experience definitely showcases the more drastic differences between Guatemala and the United States. The automated harvest is remarkable as well. A single machine can do the work of 600 men in a day, using only 50 men. Next, we visited their on-site biological control laboratory. There, they prepare massive amounts of biological controls, including fungal inoculum and insects.
El aguacero que moja mi piel, lluvia que va a caer, viento que no se ve. Va subiendo la temperatura y va bajando la calentura, aunque me duela el corazón.
Although we learned an immense amount of information about conservation and agriculture in Guatemala, this trip was also riddled with cultural information and experiences. One wonderful experience in particular was a homestay in San Juan. During our homestay, we all got to spend one night with a Guatemalan family, learning all about their culture and traditions. Some of us got to learn how to make corn tortillas. Others of us got to watch our homestay moms weave and learn how to weave ourselves. And some of us got to listen to traditional Mayan music. This trip was also impactful for the Guatemalan students.
Yo vivo en Guatemala, pero no tengo esa posibilidad de conocer diferentes lugares. Antes de realizar este viaje, durante estos 12 días, lo único que yo quería era salir de la universidad, ir a trabajar a una empresa y hacer dinero. Pero durante este viaje me he puesto a reflexionar y me ha creado como una conciencia de salir de la universidad, regresar a mi comunidad y ayudarlos.
As Oscar just stated, the trip significantly impacted the Guatemalan students, and the Madison students feel equally, if not more, impacted. Not only did we get to experience a new culture, we also had the privilege of learning from our Guatemalan friends. We are thankful to have learned from their knowledge, been changed by their thoughts and opinions, and have treasured their friendship.
Un vendaval que se aleja.
We enjoyed a stay in the hip and glorious Ramzul Eco Hotel. It's located on the edge of their own 100-acre cloud forest preserve, dedicated to preserving the national bird of Guatemala, the resplendent quetzal. We hiked to a beautiful waterfall on their preserve. Along the way, we learned about identifying tropical plants. Here Don is explaining how to identify the family Melastomataceae, a plant family found mostly in the tropics. We saw a huge array of diversity that we aren't able to see at home in Wisconsin, such as emerging fiddleheads of ferns and epiphytes throughout the forest. We wandered through riparian habitats. We eventually found ourselves in front of a waterfall spanning 80 meters. Where we enjoyed a very cool dip in the pools below. The next day we visited the Cloud Forest Preserve, the Biotopo del Quetzal. The Biotopo is part of a greater cloud forest protection corridor, known as the Corredor Biológico del Bosque Nuboso. We were very lucky to see 2 quetzals, a male and a female. They feast on fruits from the avocado tree, or Lauraceae family, which is where you are most likely to find them. The males are known to have a very long tail to attract females. Seeing this majestic bird served as a reminder of the importance of conservation. We then enjoyed a hike through the preserve, which included birding, botanizing, and mycologizing. After our hike, we were able to hear about the founding of the Biotopo del Quetzal and Corredor Biológico del Bosque Nuboso, as well as the beginning of an orchid-growing conservation organization. The founding of the Biotopo del Quetzal was a bit controversial at first. The managers faced opposition from local community members who sold orchids from the forest. Through negotiations, a new plan came together to grow orchids to sell rather than poaching them from the forest. With acceptance from the community, the Biotopo is now able to protect the flora and fauna within it.
Eres fuego que quema, el aguacero que moja mi piel, lluvia que va a caer, viento que no se ve. Va subiendo la temperatura y va bajando la calentura, aunque me duela el corazón. Contigo yo me voy.